Another common question that I get is, what are points and should I pay them? And most people come saying, what are points, and I don't want them, because we're trained, inculcated in the culture to say points are bad. They're not my favorite. I generally don't quote rates with points, but I do like to show a rate with points so that you can see it. You see what it means, and then you decide, does it make sense or not? And I'm going to tell you, in general, it does not make sense, but sometimes it does. First, what's a point? A point is, industry speak, it's prepaid interest. You're buying the interest rate down permanently by paying 1% of the loan amount equals 1 point. 1% of the loan amount is 1 point. You're paying the rate down permanently to a lower interest rate, so you have a lower payment every month, but higher closing costs, right? A gimme and a gotcha, always. And when does that make sense? I'll give you one example. Just recently, I had a retired person who was buying a home, but they were on a fixed income. And she knew what she could afford, and her budget was really tight, but it worked, only if the payment was a certain amount. She found a home slightly above her budget, but by paying a point, because she had some assets, by paying a point, buying that rate down, it fit exactly into her budget, so she knew long-term, she could stay in that home. And that's when it makes sense. There's a few other examples, but that was one that it just made sense because it fit her budget. So yeah, I'll show you a loan with points. In general, you're going to look at it and say, well, that doesn't make sense for me. That's true of most scenarios. Every once in a while it does, so it's worth looking at and see what it makes sense, but that's what it is, and that's the use of it. It's prepaid interest, buys the rate down permanently, so your monthly payment is always a little bit lower. Hope that helps. If you want to get started looking at all the options, click below, set a time, and we'll get started.